A few moments later.
When Greg Mander from Bush Boy Knives told me that the knife he sent me had almost arrived in Canada, he said that I should enjoy it in the comfort of my home, cozy, with a whiskey by the fireplace. And so if there is no unboxing today, you can thank Greg Mander of Bush Boy Knives. No way, this is so cool! Well, there you have it, your first introduction to Greg Mander, or Down Under Greg as I like to call him. He shunned you the opportunity to view an unboxing of his offering, a 250mm Damascus kiritsuke. Seriously speaking though, I love that he told me I should have a special moment and not film the unboxing. Unluckily for me, I don't know what it means to relax, and so since he sent me this knife for free, of which as you know, the opinion is still my own, I felt I should turn the don't film the unboxing scenario into, a bit of a skit. So now, before I give you my thoughts on what I found when I unboxed the Bush Boy Knives made 250mm Kiritsuke, why don't I introduce Greg? And no better person to introduce Greg, well, than Greg. And so, here he is from Down Under, ladies and gentlemen, Greg.
Thanks for that, Frankie. My name's Greg, aka Down Under Greg, as Frankie likes to call me. I'm the owner and creator of Bush Boy Knives. I live in Australia, down in Adelaide, and I've been making knives for the last 7 years. The last 3.5 years, I've been hand forging most of my knives. I enjoy making Damascus with the Latin patterns, twisted Damascus, mosaics, also do a bit of mono steel and also stainless steel. Japanese style knives would be my favourite style to make. I also make skinners, campers, filleting knives and everything else in between. My handle construction's normally Australian hardwood timber, but I can make anything that you desire. My Facebook page is Bush Boy Knives, and I also have a web page under Bush Boy Knives as well. So please get in contact with me for quotes and sales. Hope you enjoy this review from Frankie, and it's back to you, mate. See ya!
Thanks, Greg, for that introduction. Not to me, of course, but for our viewers. I'm not just a Japanese kitchen knife guy anymore. Japanese kitchen knives will always be the biggest part of my collection, but I'm proud to now offer somewhat of a platform for all other smiths worldwide. So thanks again, Greg, for sending me this knife, saya, and everything else in that box. Speaking of, I also made sure to record my thoughts about what I found when I unboxed the knife, and so, now onto that bit. Holy shit, so I just finished unboxing Greg Mander's knife, and he told me to do it in private, so I kind of did it in private, but also made that private moment part of the video as hopefully a bit of a funny sketch. And man, the unboxing experience was fantastic. Just some really small, quirky stuff that I loved. I think there's a really small honing strap that came with it, leather strap. It's really cute, like the logo. The keychain is a nice touch. I mean, there's a QR code even behind the keychain. The knife was wrapped like a salami, which made me laugh because I'm Italian and I really like opening pre-shrunk packages like that. It was even wrapped in wax paper like a salami would. Well, the knife is so much smaller than I would have expected for the length that was discussed, but not in a bad way. It feels light, nimble. The handle is gorgeous. I love how the ferrule tapers towards the saya to be at relatively the same plane height. The materials are exquisite. I love that he wrote like a 3-page instructional care guide that after the first page it says basically don't read page 2 or 3 until you've unboxed it. The certificate of authenticity is a super cool touch. The knife itself is exquisite. I've never really seen a blade with that type of hue. I didn't expect it to be single bevel. Yeah, it's gorgeous, man. It doesn't have a lot of blade height, but yet the way he designed the handle and the blade, it seems like I'm gonna have enough knuckle clearance, so super excited to try it. Very, very impressed with this. Absolutely amazing. And he also provided some walnut wax to moisturize both saya and handle. Oh, and speaking of saya, he pyro burned my logo into it, which is dope. Those were my first impressions on the unboxing. Maybe to you, the viewers, one of my comments sounded maybe silly, but damn, a knife shrunk wrapped like a salami? Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Greg propelled me immediately to cloud number salami dreams. I also absolutely love when Smiths share progress images, and so here are some of those progress images that he sent me. It's always a good tease, and in a day and age where people are impatient, it makes you feel like he's working on your tool. You don't need to guess or assume, you just essentially take a look at the progress pictures. Now there's lots going on with this knife, so rather than tell you everything about it, from a material and dimension standpoint, it will be easier to kind of just have all that piece of information fly by right here in front of you. And so enjoy this flyby with everything up on screen. But now, the real question as usual is, how does it perform on the cutting board? Well, time to find out. But before we do, as usual, if you appreciate this content, a thumbs up, a follow, and a share would really mean a lot. Now, à la cuisine. This is gonna go horribly for sure with a horizontal cut. Alright, so as you saw, in some cases the knife performed really well against some of the items I paired it up against, and in other cases there were some challenges. Regardless of which scenario you choose to focus on, I will tell you one thing, and that this is an incredibly light and comfortable knife to hold. It's so thin, and with a hollow on the Hira, it kind of messes with my mind, making me think this isn't a single bevel knife. But as thin as it is, from spine to tip to cutting edge, it still has a slight draw to the left. Upon looking at the edge geometry a little better under my, of course, new macro lens, I do think that out of all spots to work on the knife, the right side convex grind could have been flattened a little bit better, just to improve overall performance. The knife doesn't have a true aura or hollow either, which definitely affects the food release a little bit. Based on those observations, I'd call this an interpretation of a single bevel kiritsuke by Mander. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. This is in fact knife number 52, and single bevels are quite difficult to do. Greg demonstrated extreme courage in trying something out of the box for himself, which isn't his usual wheelhouse. Now this knife felt best in hand when pull cutting as opposed to push cutting, and this is due to an impressively flat profile on the majority of the cutting edge, at least all the way up to, I'd say, probably 60%. I do believe the knife could benefit from a bit of a thicker spine, even if tapering to the same micro thin tip, allowing more space for Greg to work on the hollow. The spine being so thin and not polished or beveled did make it slightly uncomfortable when pinch gripping for long periods of time because of the amount of pressure that essentially ends up on a very thin piece of metal. The cutout on the right side, if anything, though cool, probably made it even harder for himself to work on the left side, given it decreased, in general, the overall thickness of steel or girth of the knife he had to work with. Now, we already know it was finished on a 3K stone, so as you'd expect and saw, not a knife to use on something like a cherry tomato or even the skin side of a bell pepper, but on something like the riblets, this was a lot of fun to use. Same with the orange, cheese bun, which was of course just for fun, and because it's so long and flat and has slight curvature to the tip, rocking it on something like a green onion was great. Initially, I thought the knuckle clearance was going to be a little bit on the shallow side, but I was wrong. I also need to hand it to Greg because out of all handles I own, which have an inclusion of metal, all of which over time become grotesquely uncomfortable in hand due to the wood shrinking and the metal staying at its original form, his blade handle is flawless after months in my home. Maybe it's the locally sourced woods in an already dry climate like Edmonton.
My handle construction's normally Australian hardwood timber.
Maybe it's just Greg being a wizard. Either way, the handle is one of my favorite parts of this knife. The saya too is absolutely insane, for it being his third, better than lots of sayas I've seen. It's ultra thin, friction fit, so it's super easy to fit inside a knife roll. In conclusion, an incredibly fun knife to use. A sharp 3K cutting edge. The saya was amazing as a whole package, honestly. One tip if he had to make any adjustments on this build: thinner isn't always better. Beef up the spine, tapering it to the tip, making the blade less flexible, allowing more room for a hollow or aura, and also allowing the blade with more heft to push through some of the tougher ingredients I put it up against, like the apple, for instance. Anyhow, insane build by Mander of Bush Boy Knives. What a guy, insanely kind, love a smith with a good head on his shoulders, and Greg is that person. Again, thanks for watching, guys. I really am happy and honored to own knife number 52. Please make sure to give Greg a follow on Facebook and check out his website. He makes knives with love to make people happy. We aren't on the quest for perfection here on this channel. Just doing our best to microanalyze, but also acknowledge when maybe that analysis makes no difference to overall performance and is just fluff and doesn't make a difference. And what actually matters is kind of the point of these videos. So try to take that as a takeaway. This knife doesn't need to cut through a rutabaga in order to be a good knife. It's a thin kiritsuke, not a big old cleaver. On that note, thanks for watching and see you next time.